of existence. The being of light who guided me showed me truths that my earthly mind struggled to comprehend. They revealed how every challenge I'd faced, growing up different in a small town, the painful process of coming out, the years of seeking acceptance, had been essential steps in my soul's journey. The memory of that ethereal space still floods my senses. The colors there transcended anything we know on earth. Imagine if love had a hue, if acceptance could be seen as clearly as a rainbow. The air itself seemed alive with consciousness, each breath filling me with understanding that went beyond mere knowledge. It was as if every cell in my body resonated with the frequency of divine truth. As I lay in that hospital bed, I began to understand why I'd been sent back. My purpose wasn't just to survive, but to share the profound message of love and acceptance I'd received. The being had shown me how our earthly labels and limitations are merely temporary constructs, like training wheels on the bicycle of spiritual growth. In that realm, my identity as a gay man wasn't something to be debated or accepted. It was simply one of countless beautiful expressions of divine creativity. The weeks following my return were filled with intense physical therapy and even more intense emotional processing. How do you explain to others that death isn't the end, but rather a doorway to understanding that makes all our earthly struggles seem like preparation for a greater purpose? Every time I closed my eyes, I could still feel the warmth of that all-encompassing love, the perfect acceptance that had nothing to do with who I loved or how I expressed myself. My recovery became a journey of integration. The physical healing was straightforward. My heart had been damaged but not destroyed. The greater challenge was reconciling the profound truths I'd learned with the everyday reality of living in a world of duality and judgment. How do you explain to someone that their deepest fears about death are unfounded? That the love waiting for us is so complete it makes our earthly concerns seem like shadows in the light of eternal day? The experience changed how I related to everyone in my life. My relationship with my parents, which had been strained since I came out, transformed as I shared the deeper understanding I'd gained. My father, who had struggled the most with accepting my sexuality, broke down in tears when I described the perfect love I'd encountered. "Maybe," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "that's the same love I've been trying to show you all along, just not knowing how." My design work took on new meaning as well. Instead of just creating beautiful spaces, I began to infuse my projects with the sense of unconditional welcome I'd experienced in that realm of light. My clients started commenting on how being in the rooms I designed made them feel accepted and at peace. I knew it was because I was channeling a fraction of that divine love into every choice of color, every selection of texture and form. The most profound change, however, was in my relationship with myself. The being of light had shown me how every aspect of my identity was purposeful and perfect. My sexuality, which I had spent years learning to accept, was revealed as just one facet of my soul's magnificent design. The shame and doubt that had lingered even after coming out were dissolved in the light of that perfect understanding. Months passed, and as my strength returned, I felt an increasing urgency to share my story. Not just the facts of what happened, but the deeper truth about love and acceptance that transcends all human categories. I began speaking at community centers, sharing my experience with others who struggled with identity and belonging. The response was overwhelming, not because everyone believed my account of the afterlife, but because the message of unconditional love resonated with a truth they already knew in their hearts. One young P, to a struggling teen at the LGBT center, had prevented a tragedy I never knew about. How my courage to live authentically had inspired a colleague to reconcile with their estranged child. How even my smallest gestures of compassion had created waves of positive change. But they also showed me my moments of doubt, not to shame me, but to help me understand my journey's purpose. I saw myself at 15, praying in my bedroom in Kansas, begging to be normal. I saw the pain in my mother's eyes when I first came out, and then, beautifully, I saw her transformation as love overcame fear. Each memory carried a lesson. Each struggle had meaning. The sensation of floating intensified as scenes from my life continued to unfold. I felt every emotion simultaneously: the sharp sting of rejection, the warm embrace of acceptance, the exhilarating freedom of finally living my truth. But these feelings were different now, viewed through a lens of perfect understanding. Even the painful moments glowed with purpose, like shadows that only served to make the light more brilliant. Time didn't exist in this place. It could have been seconds or centuries as I absorbed these profound truths. The being showed me how every person's journey is unique yet interconnected, like threads in an infinite tapestry. My specific path, including my sexuality, my struggles, my triumphs, was not a mistake or a test, but an essential part of the divine pattern. Then came a moment that would forever change my understanding of love. The being guided me to what I can only describe as a vast library of emotions. Here, I experienced love in its purest form, not the limited version we know on earth, but something so expansive it defied comprehension. This love didn't need conditions or labels. It didn't judge or categorize. It simply was, and in its presence, I finally understood that every part of my identity was a gift, not a burden. I learned that what we call acceptance on earth is merely a shadow of this divine love. In this realm, my sexuality wasn't something to be accepted or tolerated. It was celebrated as part of the magnificent diversity of creation. The message was clear. I hadn't been born wrong and then learned to accept myself. I had been perfectly created, and my journey was about remembering this truth. The being showed me more visions, this time of the future, not specific events, but possibilities. I saw how sharing my story could help others trapped in darkness find their light. I witnessed the potential ripple effects of living completely authentically, without fear or shame. The message was clear. We are all connected, and our individual journeys of self-discovery strengthen the entire human fabric. The account expands to cover the years following the experience, including James's new purpose in life, the ways his design work evolved to reflect his spiritual awakening, and the communities he built to support others on their journeys of self-discovery. The narrative maintains its deeply personal tone while touching on universal themes that resonate with listeners from all walks of life. As the golden rays of sunlight streamed through my hospital room window, I knew I had to share the profound transformation that had occurred during those precious minutes when my heart had stopped beating. The doctors called it a near-death experience, but that clinical term couldn't begin to capture the magnificent journey my soul had undertaken. The morning of my awakening, I found myself surrounded by the sterile whites and beeping monitors of the intensive care unit. My sister Sarah sat beside me, her eyes red from crying, clutching my hand as if afraid I might slip away again. The medical staff had told her I'd been clinically dead for 4 minutes and 23 seconds. But where they saw death, I had discovered the truest form of life. During those eternal moments beyond the veil, I experienced something that would forever alter my understanding. My hands trembled as I adjusted the microphone, the soft glow of ring lights illuminating my home studio. The weight of what I was about to share pressed heavy on my heart. Taking a deep breath, I looked directly into the camera lens, connecting with you, my viewers, my family, my community. Before I begin this story, I want you to know that what I'm about to share changed everything for me. This isn't just another near-death experience video. This is my truth, raw and unfiltered. And if you're watching this, maybe it's because you're meant to hear it. The memory of that day still feels as fresh as morning dew. It was March 15th, 2023, an ordinary Wednesday that would become extraordinary. The California sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose as I left my interior design studio in San Francisco. I remember feeling particularly accomplished, having just landed a major contract for a boutique hotel renovation. At 34 years old, I'd finally found my groove. My design business was thriving. I had an amazing circle of friends who accepted me completely, and for the first time in my life, I felt comfortable in my own skin. Being gay in San Francisco wasn't just accepted, it was celebrated. But growing up in small-town Kansas, it had taken years to embrace who I truly was. The first warning sign came as I merged onto the Bay Bridge. A strange pressure began building in my chest, like someone was slowly tightening a belt around my ribcage. I tried to shake it off, attributing it to the triple-shot espresso I'd had during my last client meeting. But deep down, something felt terrifyingly wrong. My vision started to blur, the bridge's lights stretching into long, golden streaks. My left arm went numb, and panic rose in my throat like bile. "Please," I whispered to no one in particular. "Not here, not now." But whatever was happening didn't care about convenience or timing. The last thing I remember was trying to pull over, my hands barely responding to my brain's desperate commands. Then everything went dark. What happened next defies explanation, but I promise you every word is true. The darkness wasn't empty. It was alive, pulsing with a presence I can only describe as pure consciousness. And then came the sensations, waves of warmth washing over me, like being immersed in liquid love. Every cell in my body sang with a frequency of perfect peace. The transition was gradual yet sudden, if that makes any sense. One moment I was floating in that living darkness, and the next I found myself in a place that transcended physical reality. Colors existed there that have no names in our language. Imagine if joy and forgiveness had visual representations. The air, though it wasn't really air, felt thick with acceptance and understanding. In this realm, I understood things that my earthly mind struggled to comprehend. Every judgment I'd ever faced, every internal battle I'd fought, every tear I'd shed, they all dissolved in the face of a love so complete it defied description. I wasn't just accepted. I was celebrated for exactly who I was, every facet of my being glowing with divine purpose. As I floated in that sacred space, a presence approached, one that radiated pure, unconditional love. The light emanating wasn't harsh or blinding. Instead, it felt like being embraced by the warmest sunset you've ever experienced. In that moment, all my earthly concerns about identity, acceptance, and belonging simply dissolved. I wasn't just James the designer, or James the gay man, or James the son who had struggled for acceptance. I was simply a soul, perfectly created and completely loved. The being of light, I hesitate to label it, though many would call it an angel, communicated without words. Every thought, every emotion, flowed between us like music. They showed me scenes from my life, but not as I had experienced them. Instead, I saw the ripple effects of my actions, how a kind word. Her son approached me after a talk, tears streaming down their face. "I've been praying for a sign that God loves me as I am," they said. "Your story, it's the answer I've been waiting for." Moments like these confirmed what the being of light had shown me, that our journeys of self-discovery are never just about us. They're about adding our unique note to the grand symphony of human experience. The medical community had their explanations for what I'd experienced: oxygen deprivation, chemical reactions in a dying brain, the last firing of neurons creating comforting hallucinations. But none of these theories could account for the profound and lasting changes in my life, or the ripple effects my story had on others. The love I'd encountered wasn't a hallucination. It was more real than anything I'd ever known on Earth. As my story spread, I received messages from people around the world. Many shared their own experiences of divine love and acceptance, stories they kept hidden for fear of judgment. Others spoke of how hearing about my journey gave them courage to live more authentically. Each message confirmed what I'd learned in that realm of light, that we're all connected in ways our earthly minds can barely comprehend. The being had shown me that our greatest purpose is to be living expressions of divine love. Not the limited conditional love we often settle for, but the vast, unconditional love that embraces every aspect of who we are. They showed me how every life is a unique expression of this love, and how our differences aren't mistakes to be corrected but gifts to be celebrated. Looking back now, I understand why my experience happened exactly as it did. As a gay man who had struggled with acceptance, I was perfectly positioned to understand and share this message of unconditional love. My journey wasn't just about personal transformation. It was about bringing back a truth that our world desperately needs to hear. That love, in its purest form, doesn't judge or exclude. It simply embraces, completely and without condition. Today, as I share my story with you, I carry the same mission that was revealed to me in that realm of light. Whether you believe in near-death experiences or not, whether you share my faith or hold different beliefs, know that you are loved beyond measure. Your identity, your struggles, your journey, all of it is part of a greater design that we can barely begin to comprehend. The light I encountered showed me that our earthly divisions are like lines drawn in sand, temporary and ultimately meaningless in the face of eternal love. Our true task isn't to fit into categories or seek approval, but to be living channels for the boundless love that exists beyond this physical realm. Every time we choose acceptance over judgment, love over fear, we align ourselves more closely with this divine truth. The impact of that divine encounter continues to ripple through my life like waves on an infinite ocean. Each day brings new opportunities to share the profound truth I discovered, that love transcends all boundaries we create here on earth. When I speak at conferences or share my story online, I see the recognition in people's eyes, that deep knowing that resonates with their own souls. Last week, a young artist approached me after one of my talks. His hands were shaking as he shared how he'd been planning to end his life the night he stumbled across my video. "Something about the way you described that unconditional love," he said, wiping tears from his eyes. "It was like you were describing exactly what my heart had been searching for." These moments remind me why I was sent back, to be a bridge between that realm of perfect love and our world of beautiful imperfection. My design studio has become more than just a business. It's transformed into a sanctuary of acceptance. Clients often tell me they feel a sense of peace the moment they walk through the door. I know it's because I've learned to infuse spaces with echoes of that divine love I experienced. Every color choice, every texture, every careful arrangement is a prayer made visible, an invitation to remember our true nature. The being of light showed me that our earthly struggles, our questions about identity, our search for acceptance, our fear of judgment, are all part of a greater journey toward understanding who we really are. They showed me how every tear shed in loneliness, every moment of doubt, every step taken in courage, weaves into the tapestry of our spiritual growth. My near-death experience wasn't just about seeing what lies beyond. It was about bringing back a message our world desperately needs to hear. That love, in its purest form, doesn't discriminate or judge. It doesn't see gay or straight, believer or skeptic, worthy or unworthy. It simply embraces, completely and without condition. As I conclude this story, I want you to know that sharing this isn't about convincing anyone of what happens after death. It's about reminding you of what's possible in life. The love I encountered in that realm isn't locked away in some distant heaven. It's available to us right now. In every moment we choose acceptance over fear, understanding over judgment, love over hate. The greatest truth I learned is that we are all perfect expressions of divine love, exactly as we are. Our differences aren't mistakes to be corrected, but gifts to be celebrated. Every aspect of who you are, your identity, your struggles, your dreams, is part of the magnificent design of your soul. So if you're watching this and feeling alone, questioning your worth, or struggling to find acceptance, know that you are loved beyond measure. The same divine light that embraced me in those moments beyond death shines within you right now. Your journey, with all its challenges and triumphs, is sacred. You don't need to change who you are to be worthy of love. You are already, exactly as you are, a masterpiece of creation. Let this story be more than just another account of what lies beyond. Let it be a reminder that love is the ultimate truth of our existence, and that each of us has the power to be a channel for that love in the world. Because in the end, that's why I was sent back. not just to tell you about heaven, but to help you remember that its light already lies within your heart. Remember, your story isn't over. And somewhere, in a realm of perfect love and acceptance, a light is shining, waiting to welcome you home.